We begin with a scene. In darkness, a faint and familiar voice can be heard.
Tristan.
The fleeting consciousness. Stars twinkle as if it were twilight. The low sound of slow mechanical cogs and tinkering. The voice can be heard more clearly now. Louder.
Tristan.
You begin to blink and slowly open your eyes. Vision still blurred. Leaning over to talk to you is a fellow student of martial arts, Kyle.
Huh? What happened?
You start to mutter, grabbing his outstretched hand and accepting aid, rising back to your feet. You glance around briefly. A circle of other students staring at you, some with hands covering mouths from surprise, others from laughter.
Guile, take a point. Return to your places. Yes, Sensei.
The older, hardened stature of your teacher stands sternly looking away from you as you catch his eye. You return to your place, head hanging low after a realization that you lost the bout.
You two, center.
Your sensei calls as two students immediately take opposing stances, bow briefly, and begin executing various maneuvers. The two students stop abruptly as all other students graspingly turn towards the door. The faintest voice can be heard.
Glider, clowns, help, please.
You spring to action, as do many others, rushing for the door. You immediately notice the cog heart is under siege yet again by those damned discarded jesters. You think to yourself.
Caspar, damn.
We transition to a conflict scene. You spring forward without command from your sense and quickly let loose a flurry of unarmed strikes against the glider clown closest to you. You make an accuracy check using dexterity and might dice, both d8s, with each landing on 4. Your frenzy skill triggers and a critical success occurs. 4 physical damage is dealt and you gain opportunity, choosing plot twist. Your sense immediately dives in, spinning a flourish of roundhouse kicks, knocking back all of the remaining clatter clowns. As they pull their broken pieces off the ground and begin to stumble away, you take a deep breath, knowing you may have stopped their siege on the cog cart, but you did so without order from your sensei. You turn your head slowly to look at him, giving an awkward chuckle and smile while scratching your head.
Fabula Ultima. This is your world. This is your story. Make your choice and fight for what you believe in.
Fabula Ultima is a tabletop Japanese role-playing game designed, written, and developed by Emmanuel Galetto. So that tabletop Japanese role-playing game, that is just a more common term that is used in Japan versus here, and that is just because it just comes from the fact that we're talking around the table, right? So that's just what they use as opposed to the typical just TTRPG, which is tabletop for us. Back in 2017, the world of tabletop gaming, so to speak, little bleak. A lot of the games that were out there were focused more on like kind of dark fantasy, gritty stories, not very optimistic in a sense. And that's where the creator of the game felt the need for something different, a refreshing alternative to those kind of like grim stories, right? Something more positive. So they wanted to capture the magic and wonder of the classic Japanese console RPGs that many of us, I know us especially, played when we were growing up. Those epic stories, vibrant worlds, a sense of adventure that left you just speechless as a kid. Wasn't just about nostalgia, though. It was about deliberate choice of a game founded on cooperation, hope, and trust, right? Like it's very much a bring the party together, kind of found family, so to speak. But both in the stories that you'll tell and the rules themselves build upon that.
Yeah, I would just add that this game is partially inspired by a Japanese role-playing game called Ryutama. So in Japanese, Ryu stands for dragon, and Tama is the shortened version of Tamago, meaning egg. So the name roughly translates to dragon egg. I thought that was interesting. I've been studying Japanese a little bit myself as well. But yeah, to Fry's point, I've played Chrono Trigger like less than 2 months ago. I play Final Fantasy 14 online every day, so we definitely still play these types of games, and it's awesome to see that captured in a table talk situation that we can play.
All right, so let's grab your gear, prepare your spells as we journey into this world of Fabula Ultima. I'm super excited to get started.
You can expect several videos filmed as chapters for this, and we'll be starting with chapter 1, which is the introduction. This is going to cover just kind of a surface level overview of the game system and what it has to offer. First, we'll start with your world. This section in the book just tells you how to create your own world collaboratively at the table. There are no canonical worlds or default worlds that you have for reference. Although there are some other books known as atlases that can help streamline the campaign setting, if you will, for that type of world. The important thing for this system is during session 0, that's where the game master and the players will work together to identify the world, the elements, any kingdoms there might be, or what lands there are. So all of that really gets hashed out within the first session and sets the pace for the campaign.
And then that campaign and that story is built upon what the book refers to as the 8 pillars. They are kind of key set pieces, I would say, that the world is built around, that is included throughout all the different worlds and settings and stories that you will tell in any kind of Japanese role playing game. Just listen through, we won't go into them all in super detail, but we do have the ancient ruins and the harsh lands, a world in peril, clashing communities, everything has a soul, magic and technology, heroes of many sizes and shapes, stories that are all about the heroes, and a journey of mystery, discovery, and growth. Now, the way these kind of play out, right, is like you have a world in peril. We've played all those games where it's a just kind of like a bleak dystopia almost. I think of things like Ocarina of Time, where we have traveled into his future, right, and he's an adult, and the world is just a kind of a barren landscape. And with that comes with those clashing communities, right? You had the Gorgons who were kind of up there down in the mountains. They kind of like stuck to themselves. You also had the fish people. I can't remember the names off the top of my head there, but they are clashing with nature itself, where you have the whole like water temple underground, right? So you just have these influence around the entire setting that you're going to see in every kind of story that falls under that kind of blanket Japanese role playing games. Uh, and to that, there is an abundance of mystery, discovery, and growth within the worlds. And I'll let Brown here say what that means in the way that the worlds are kind of presented in the game itself.
In the system, we have a few world examples in the core book, and we're going to put links in the description for where you can find the atlases on each of these. However, the first one is called High Fantasy. So think of your great castles, your enchanted forests, sprawling ruins. For example, this could be a princess who's lost her kingdom, or a veteran soldier that's pledged protection to the people in their life. Or you could have the natural fantasy, which is more of your verdant forests, snow-capped mountains, beasts and forests of nature. This includes things such as being the daughter of a village chief that's trying to prove her worth, or being a young hermit that stumbled upon the entrance to a magical ruin. Those are the type of settings you could see in that. Or, much like in our intro we had, was more of a techno fantasy vibe where you have the clanking sounds of brass and steel, rundown districts of industry, maybe even some underground facilities, energy draining factories. This could be a scarred hero who's had everything taken from them by the elites, or the last survival of a line of magic, or maybe even a failed experiment who's abandoned their cold hearted creator. So, definitely all very cool, interesting, and unique in their own ways. And I think that's where a lot of this replay in the system comes from, is being able to completely switch your campaign, your setting, your world, and relive through a whole different experience. Again, you can take from things you already know from Japanese role-playing games you've played, or anime that you watch, really anything, and flavor those elements in and create your own. Going a little off topic, but I do see a lot of people converting like Dungeons and Dragons into Naruto or Pokemon, or whatever. Well, this kind of gives you a better way to do that in a Japanese fantasy way. The mechanics in the system are already built to capture that atmosphere and that environment. So definitely a good system, I think, to learn if you're into those kind of things.
I love that the books are dedicated more to genre than to setting, which I thought was like really
Absolutely. Yeah.
helpful. So instead of like being like say if you're in Dungeons and Dragons, you're like you get at the Dragonlance book, and which is great. It's that nice setting if you want to build it and all that. But here it could be like I don't necessarily want specifically that. I want to have one that is technology based, and it just gives you the tools to do that, and it just gives you the flavor, so to speak. So I just really liked that part of it, where you're just getting a genre book as opposed towards a specific setting book. I thought it was really interesting. Speaking of books, leading into more the actual materials you'll need on hand to play. So we've talked about the setting books a little bit, those like genre books. Primarily, you do just need the core rule book to start. For the player specifically, you'll need your game sheet. So you'll have a character sheet. This is the one that you'll build your character out on. Together, you will have a group sheet. This will have everything you'll need that counts your inventory, kind of creatures, locations. Almost, I would call it like a group notebook that you'll all kind of fill out as you play along. You'll have your world game sheet. Now, this is going to be used primarily by the GM to kind of record important information, kingdoms, events. And then the map, which will be the player facing side of that, which is where you'll have your travel distances, your landmarks, regions that are charted and uncharted, things like that. It's kind of like two sides of the same coin for those sheets there. Of course, you'll need paper, pencil, erasers. Be a lot of changes that go on. You go up to level 50 in this, so you have a lot of things that'll happen as you go along. You'll also have your dice, which in this game they use your typical ones minus the d4. So d6, 8, 10, 12, and a d20. And then finally, you'll need a couple tokens. In this game, they use things such as they use Fabula points, which are for players, and then Ultima points, which are for villains. Now, these are special points that either side can use to cash in on various different things, which we'll get into a little later on down the line. But you just need to have some kind of token that's going to represent these two things. So I think like a green and a red, like gemstone, little plastic one would be perfect. Anything you can do to separate and that you can cash in on to expend those points as you gain them. But that is all you need to start as far as game materials go. So not too much and a little bit of fun new stuff that's not typical for a normal game.
Yeah, I really like how they took the name of the system and separated that into things that actually help
Yeah.
drive the story. So Fabula points and Ultima points, super cool. And the way you can use those, which again we'll get into later, but those can really drive or affect change in the story, which is really cool. It really makes this system around the name of the game, which I love. Now, if you're a player in this system, you're going to kind of need some of the similar stuff, right? But you're going to need to first familiarize yourself with the book. It's pretty easy to read. It's really only 3 chapters because chapter 4 and 5 are the GameMaster and Bestiary side. So if you read the first 3 chapters, you're pretty much set to go. At least get familiar with it. You'll need those similar tools like paper, pencils, etc. to fill in your character sheets and things like that, especially if you prefer the hard copy in person like I do. And the most important thing for the players is creating the game world, which again, we're referencing back to using those 8 pillars and the world examples. In the core rulebook, there are 7 steps to creating a world, and there are multiple tables in here that you can select from or roll from to decide what that might look like, and really help start getting those collaborative and creative juices flowing among the table. Because again, this is your story, your world, so everyone that's playing is creating that together, and it helps if you all have an idea of what the world looks like. You're also going to choose an archetype for your group, so this could be guardians of artifacts or revolutionaries or heroes of fate, which is, your more standard Japanese style RPG. But really, whatever your world is and whatever setting that you're wanting to play in, you can form your group identity off of that. We're going to create a player character. The core book outlines 8 different steps to do this. The first 3 are your identity, theme, and origin. You also pick a class, assign attributes, and then figure out your starting stats based on that. You have your money and equipment, and then of course a name. Now we're going to show a chart. In this system there are 15 classes, but these really can be used in a combination of any way. However, the core book suggests these 20 more class fantasy fulfilling elements that you can look at. You also start at level 5 in this system, so multi-classing is required. You have to pick at least 2 classes to start. You can go up to 3 at the beginning. And then there are different ways to assign your attributes, such as the Jack of all trades, where you get just 48s to assign to your attributes, or you can be an average character, which is a D8, 2 D10s, and a D6, and then a specialized character, which you get 2 D10s and 2 D6 to assign. The main point of your player character is to cooperate, contribute to the story, and obviously character development. If you enjoy watching anime, for example, everyone knows that character development is really crucial to hooking people and keeping the story going, and that's what really ties people back into watching again. So same thing here, you're going to want to keep playing this, especially if you can see yourself and your fellow players' character development through the exploration of your world.
Backflash every episode, every
Yeah,
session, one character should have a
yeah.
backflash. for some character development. I do love that though. I thought the dice part, the stats are super unique system. So instead of like having that hard number, you assign a dice size to that stat attribute, which is
Hmm.
super interesting. I'm really excited to see how that like plays out down the road, right? When we're building all this stuff out. But I thought that was super, super cool. Last up, we're going to discuss the game master side of it. So we went over all the equipment, what the players need to do, but what does the game master need to do to prepare for the game? Well, of course, you need to read the book. Unfortunately, you are tasked with all 5 chapters of the book, so it might take you a little longer, but it is a great read still. A lot of good information in there, and stuff that you can use in other games as well, like the world building side of it. Universal, you can do that in any kind of game, but got to read the whole book there. Gather up the tools as well with your players. Assist in their world creation, group creation, and character creation. Uh, as we've said before, when Brown was talking about the steps and all that, there is no default world. There is no, oh hey, let's just pick up the Forgotten Realms and we're just going to play in that. In this, there is no default. There is nothing there on the book for you. Everything is going to be created by you and the players, which I think is a very great and unique experience, and then one that you are there to assist and guide them through as they basically create the game they're going to play in. You are there to drive the story, sticking to those 8 pillars and the world that they have created. So that is your rail, so to speak. You're just making sure that you're following the guidance there, but for the most part, you're just guiding them along the story. Um, Ask questions of the players every time there is an action or a new scene. You're going to be questioning them just to layer on more answers in building that world. And of course, you're looking for inspiration and adding it wherever possible. So get sharp on your JRPGs, your anime. That is going to be your bread and butter. All game mastering is just stealing ideas from other places and slapping new paint on them. That's my motto for it.
Yeah, and we definitely have, there are various resources for the system. So again, check the description. We're going to put everything in there. There's also a Discord, which go and check that out, especially for that inspiration piece. We are a group of friends and military members that absolutely love tabletop role-playing games. We believe that no matter what system you play, you should have enough content to have an epic game night every night. So if you like content like Dungeons and Dragons, Daggerheart, DC-20, Fabula Ultima, Lancer, and many other systems that we're going to be covering, please continue to watch us and stick around. The story is not over yet, and we're just beginning to explore this fantastical system. Until next time, keep that shield wall strong.